So today is Monday. It is a beautiful day. I normally don't work on Mondays outside of the home, but I do have to get my sewing lesson ready for today. So that is going to be the premise of this video. With all my sewing projects that I teach, I like to sew through the project first to make sure that it's suitable, that it's, I know how I'm gonna explain it and how I'm gonna demonstrate it. This particular class is for kids, so I just wanna make sure. I think it'll be simple enough, but I'm gonna make some examples and just, run through it so I know what I'm teaching and talking about. So we're gonna do that. It's a beautiful day out. We're gonna get some vitamin D. The cat loves to be outside, so she'll have a little porch time, and then I'll probably open a window for her. I'm gonna make my chai tea. It's gonna be a great day. Hopefully we'll get outside, maybe go on a run or something. But I think it's gonna get kind of hot today, so we'll see. On beautiful mornings, I love to get outside first thing and get some sunlight into my eyes and brush rigatoni. We seem to be having a little bit of an ant problem around the sink area because I had left some honey in a little container over here a couple weeks ago. And the jar was closed, but somehow I guess there was some honey somewhere on it. So we've had an ant problem ever since. I ended up eating a little piece of banana bread yesterday that I had left on the counter. I put it in my mouth and then I realized it had ants on it. So that was really horrifying. Obviously I spit it out. I spit out a few ants as well. So I'm going to do some research, figure out what essential oils take care of ant problems, like what repels ants. And I'm gonna give that a try. I'm gonna mix up some oils. Okay, so it looks like peppermint oil, tea tree, eucalyptus, citrus, they all take care of ants. So I'm gonna see what we have in here. I'm gonna put it in this little jar. Let's see, tea tree. You actually kind of have to be careful with some of these. Like apparently tea tree is pretty strong. Yeah, maybe I don't want to put that out for the cat because some of these things can be a little toxic if you ingest them. I don't know if these are like food grade or what. So on further investigation, it looks like every single essential oil that I own is toxic for cats. It was like really bad, like all the symptoms that could, rigatoni could experience. So rather than risk her respiratory system, I think I'll just get the real deal, the pet-friendly ant traps. Because I can't be eating ants. I can't be dealing with ants crawling all over the place. If anyone has any suggestions, let me know. So I decided to go with bowl covers for my last session of my 6-week course for the kids. And I found this pattern tutorial on YouTube, which I will link below. So I did not make up this pattern myself, but it was a lot of fun to make. After tracing the bowl, I measured 2 inches from the inner circle. Then I measured the bowl with 1/4 inch elastic. Here I'm pinning my pattern piece to the fabric and getting ready to cut out the circle. Here I'm pinning the 2 pieces of fabric right sides together, and I will be sewing around the circle, leaving a couple inches open to be able to turn it inside out. And here's where I marked it with pencil so I'd remember where to stop. For the seam allowance, I used a 1/2 inch. And back to the machine to sew a casing for the elastic. Here I'm threading the elastic through the bodkin and then putting the bodkin through the casing. So as you can see, I'm just threading it through and being careful not to lose the elastic on either end. So what can happen is sometimes you're pulling the bodkin through and the elastic comes off the bodkin and then you lose the elastic within the casing. Or if you're not holding the other end of the elastic, that can slip through too as well, and then you have to start over. To close off the casing and finish off the opening, you want to sew the inner circle to meet the other seam, and then you kind of hold the elastic out of the way, and then you end up stuffing the elastic into the little casing and sewing the opening shut. Once the opening is closed, you want to stretch the elastic so it's even around the circle. And here we have it. It kind of looks like a little shower cap. It might seem like a weird project to teach kids, but it teaches them how to use elastic and a bodkin and get comfortable threading elastic through casing. So now that I've successfully made a bowl cover, I am going to get the rest of my lesson ready. The other thing I have planned is embroidery. So a couple days ago, I went through the stitches. I just have my sample piece here. I got the hoops ready for the students. And yeah, so I have a bunch of embroidery floss and special embroidery needle. I'm going to write down the steps in which I want to run Thursday's lesson. So I think we're going to start with embroidery. It is the last class of my 6-week session. So we're going to start with embroidery, and I'm going to give that probably a half hour, and then the following hour I will do the bowl cover. And then if we still have time, maybe we'll come back to the embroidery. I think that's a good start. I do want to go through making the pattern with the kids, like measuring around the bowl, if we have time. If we don't have time, I will just bring in the already made patterns and they'll just use those to cut their fabric. But it would be nice to, just have that little bit of measuring technique. So I'm really gonna try to squeeze that in as well. So the last 6-week session I did with some kids, they really enjoyed the embroidery, and I think they would have liked a couple extra classes in embroidery. But you just never know with kids, because some of them love the really slow hand stitching type of sewing, and other kids can't stand it. So this is my basic introduction to sewing. So I try to give the kids a variety of skills and things that they can use to either progress or decide whether they like sewing or not. And yeah, so like the first week we were just getting used to the machines. We made a simple pillowcase, and I taught them how to do a slip stitch. And like last week, we made little pouches that involved sewing a button onto the pouch, and that was a great experience for sewing buttons. I know what I'm teaching, and I wrote down the order of the class. I'm going to pack my bags, so I'm not rushing towards the end of the week.
So that brings us to the end of my sewing class preparation for this week. Thank you so much for coming along and joining me on this process. I am going to, maybe I'll go on that run I was talking about now, or maybe I'll continue working on another sewing project. I'm not sure, but I'm gonna clean up the sewing space and figure out what's next for the rest of the day. I hope you learned something, and I will see you next time.